Hello everyone, welcome to RPG Limit Break. My name is Selcouthmind, but you can call me Sel, and I am the host here of Hidden Encounters, the show all about indie and obscure RPGs. Now, we have a very, very special and exciting show for you today, but first, I want to remind folks that our annual charity event is coming up in less than a month. Yes, you heard that correctly. It is coming up in less than a month. It's going to be happening in Denver on May 17th to 23rd. Main registration is now closed. However, we do have late registration still open through the event. So if you are interested in attending on site, I highly encourage you to get your ticket. Come join us. It's going to be a fantastic time with an incredible schedule as we're raising money for NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And as well, we do also have merch again this year for the event, thanks to Tantrum Merch. Pre-orders for the volunteer merch will be closing at the end of the month, so on April 30th. I highly recommend you also get your attendee merch sooner than later. You can get links to that by going to your profile on RPG Limit Break. Now, with that being said, Friday was a very exciting special day for RPG fans. It was the 1-year anniversary of the release of Clair Obscur Expedition 33, an absolutely groundbreaking game, took the world by storm last year. And so I am incredibly excited, incredibly honored to be bringing you this anniversary special. It is officially my favorite RPG of all time. I have the wonderful Eddaket here, bringing us expert Glitchless. Eddaket, tell us about the game.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Eddaket, as Sel mentioned. And this is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This is a phenomenal RPG. It's got a really, innovative battle system. It's definitely like things that have been done before, but like the full, full package of the battle system here is phenomenal. The story is amazing. It's really gripping, like from start to finish. And yeah, I mean, I definitely second that. It's definitely up there for RPGs in my book as well. So, yeah, I don't want to dilly-dally too much. We can go ahead and get started. As mentioned, this is going to be on expert difficulty. There are 3 difficulties here. There's story, expeditioner, and expert. I'll explain the differences between the different difficulties as we get into it. But without delaying, let's go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
Thank you. All right. So as I mentioned, the story in this game is absolutely amazing. I will try not to like spoil anything. So if you are going into this without having played the game before, or without knowing the story, you should be fine pretty much for the beginning of the game. First 50 minutes or so. But yeah, starting out here, we are playing as Gustav. Gustav is a adult man who is going to be going on the next expedition. But before we get started on our expedition, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a battle tutorial here. We're going to get a taste of what the battle system is like. Like pretty much any RPG, you've got sort of your base attacks, you've got skills that you can do. There is a stamina slash, in this game it's called APs system. And so we're going to go ahead and do our first battle here. And one of the really big things about the battle system is that there are dodges and parries. So if you are good, you can absolutely get through... one second. You can get through the entire game without taking any damage. That was a parry there, which led to a counter. But you can also do dodging. The dodging timing window is larger than the parry window. Whenever I dodge, you'll either see a perfect or a dodge sort of title show up. If I get perfect dodges, that was the same window as the parries. I don't remember the exact numbers. The numbers that are coming to mind are parry window is about 150 milliseconds, and the dodge window is about 250 milliseconds. So pretty tight windows, and the more The more difficult thing is maybe those windows sound like a bit large, especially to people who are used to like frame perfect tricks and things like that. The difference here is that every enemy is going to have different attacks, and they're going to have different tells on when you're supposed to counter, or to parry rather. So it is definitely one of those games you have to sit down and you have to like really learn, even casually. If you want to get through this game on expert, you have to sit down and like learn battles. So it's definitely a very intricate game, and one that has a lot of skill expression for sure.
Fine. Mostly.
I'm not fine.
You will be.
So as we go through the prologue here, I'll mention a little bit about Gustav. So I mentioned the general, basic battle mechanics of you've got your base attacks, you've got skills. There's AP. AP is how you can use different skills. You generate AP once per turn, and then you can also get more AP by having different battle bonuses called Pictos, which we'll get into later, as well as every parry you do will give you another AP. You can have up to 9 AP at a time, and the skills you use will cost AP. Every character also has their own specific character mechanics. Gustav's mechanics revolve around his skill called Overcharge, where as he either dodges, parries, deals damage, uses skills, whatever it is, he will generate charges up to a maximum of 10. And then once you've generated some charges, you'll be able to use a move called Overcharge. And the amount of damage Overcharge does depends on how many charges you've built up. It'll consume all of those charges, and then you can start over. This is going to be a mechanic that we use a little bit throughout the run, but it's actually very important, specifically on the first boss. So I'll make sure to point that out when we get there.
She's probably alone, as usual.
Just wrapping up the prologue here. Story-wise, basically what's happening is there is a being called the Paintress, who once a year goes ahead and essentially makes all of the population over a certain age disappear. Currently, that age is 33. And so every year, the town of Lumiere, or city of Lumiere, sends out expeditions to try and stop the Paintress. Every expedition has failed, but this is our turn. We are Expedition 33, as the name of the game suggests. And this is the end of the prologue, and we're about to head off on our expedition.
She really wants off the...
You mean the one?
Just suggestion.
I do, anyway.
During these cutscenes that get skipped, we actually learn that our expedition gets ambushed. And it seems as though everybody on the expedition has died, basically. So Gustav is the only one remaining. So we're going to go through this first area called Spring Meadows and get introduced to kind of the main enemy class of the game, which are Neverons. Neverons come in many different shapes and sizes, as we're going to learn as we go through this area. And there's a few more battle mechanics that we're going to learn about. Right here, we can do free aim shots, and enemies will have weak points, so we can go ahead and abuse that. And then before our next battle, we're actually going to get introduced, or actually during our next battle, I should say, we're going to be introduced to our next party member, who is Lune. Lune is pretty important for the run. If you were to play on story glitchless, that category for speedrunning, you actually don't use Lune at all. But she is very important but she's not pick up steam until right around Act 2. So she'll be on our party for a while, but not contributing too much until then. She is primarily a magic mage type character. Her battle mechanics involve generating and consuming stains. So every time you use a skill, she'll generate some stains, and then if she has the correct color stains, she'll be able to consume those stains using skills, for different effects. Most of the time it's just going to be extra damage, but sometimes it'll be things like, oh, get to play twice, or whatever the game decided to do for certain skills. All right. So now we've got 2 party members. The game will allow us to play with up to 3 people in our party. We will be getting, I believe it is 6 characters total over the course of the run. But we can only use 3 at a time. But we'll introduce them as we get there. Before then, though, we're going to pick up a Picto. So Pictos are these sort of battle bonuses that you can equip on your characters. The way that they work are Pictos have 2 components to them. They have sort of a stat boost. So some of them will give you some speed. They'll give you critical hit chance, things like that. And there's also a Lumina effect, and that's going to be like the main purpose of the Picto. So right here is going to be critical burn. Critical burn gives us some stats, but more importantly, it gives us 25% critical hit chance, increased critical hit chance against burning enemies. Let me get through this battle, then I'll explain how the different parts of the Picto. Okay, so Pictos, like I said, have the 2 different parts to them. It's got like a stat boost part and then a Lumina effect. Once a character has had a Picto equipped for 4 battles, and you've won those 4 battles, then the Lumina gets learned, and you'll be able to use or equip the Lumina on any character. But until then, you can only equip the Picto on 1. If a character has the Lumina equipped, they'll get that Lumina bonus. So in Critical Burn's case, they'll get that extra critical hit chance, but they won't get the different stat modifiers. So a lot of the run is going to be surrounding picking up the best Pictos that we can. These Pictos are going to have some really great synergy, as you're going to learn later on. And then trying to equip those on as many characters as we can, while giving the stats to the characters that need them. So another tutorial fight. This one is teaching us about flying enemies. Flying enemies are more evasive. Using normal attacks will generally miss, but free aim shots are the typical way to damage them.
Something's disrupting the chroma around here. Be careful.
All right, we're going to try to do a little trick here. So whenever you go into a cutscene trigger, the game kind of makes you lose control of your character, and then the screen will fade into the cutscene after a certain amount of time. It is possible to open your menu on the way in and do a menu. So I'm going to try that here.
Let us thank them for that.
All right, I got most of the menu done. I didn't get the whole thing done. You're kind of on a timer whenever you do that.
Expedition 81.
So I'm going to do that in a few places in the run. The run's actually been optimized to the point where there's a lot of those in the run. I mainly do it in the first hour or so. And then most of the menus become large enough that I just sort of do them all in one fell swoop instead. All right, we're going to pick up Dead Energy here, and then go ahead and equip that as well as Dodger.
Interesting.
And then this is another optional battle we're going to do before our first boss. All right, so the first boss coming up is going to be Avec. Avec has a sort of like an enrage phase type thing that happens, health trigger at 30% health. Our goal is to avoid that altogether and go from above 30% health to dead in a single hit. And the way that we're going to do that is we've actually equipped a ton of Pictos on Gustav to the point where he has a 48% chance to critical hit Avec as long as Avec is burning. And so the entire fight is going to revolve around generating overcharge charges and then setting ourselves up to get that one big hit at the very end. Let's go ahead and powerful and do weak spot, some free aims, and then we're going to burn. Avec is going to be burned basically for the entire fight. That's why we're going to have the enhanced critical hit chance. So this right here has a 48% chance to crit. These crits don't matter too much, but they are nice to get. Spell. Spell is good for AP generation, but it is a relatively slow attack. So, alright, now that we've marked Avec, we do not want to damage him again until it's Gustav's turn. So we're going to use an energy tint. That's going to give him 4 AP. And then he's got maximum overcharge. Let's see if we get it. 48% chance. We got it. Very nice.
Incredible.
Yeah. So something that is kind of funny that it just showed up in chat, in the Twitch chat, somebody posted an emote of 2193 damage. That is the amount of damage that a critical hit there on Avec does normally. But something I didn't mention is that I am playing on the current patch version of the game. This is the patch, actually that just came out like 2 days ago for the first anniversary. But the first anniversary patch didn't change too much in terms of the speedrun or really anything. The main one that matters is the thank you patch that came out in December. That patch did a number of things, but one of the main ones it did was that there were some Pictos, 4 of them in total, 2 of them that are relevant in the speedrun, that had just a hidden 10% damage boost. It wasn't explained anywhere. It was just by having it equipped, you get an extra 10% damage. And Dead Energy 2 was one of those Pictos. That was fixed in the December patch. So a lot of fights had to be sort of reworked to account for that. But that fight there is just a matter of making sure you did enough damage before the critical hit there. But that's why the amount of damage I did was a little bit less than you would see for any of the players that down patch. So do a little bit of fancy movement here to get up there. Because I messed it up, it would have been faster to just go around. We're going to ignore that.
Nice.
Wait. Everyone. Looks like a different species.
Doesn't matter. They're between us and Maelle.
Those mines. Be careful.
All right. Go ahead and do a quick optional battle for a little bit more experience. Expert Glitchless does have to get a number of extra fights for experience purposes. This is one of them. It's a relatively fast fight. I guess one thing I didn't mention was the difference between the difficulties. So I'm playing on Expert. Expert is the hardest difficulty here. And compared to Story, Expert is going to have tighter timing windows when it comes to dodges and parries. It's actually significantly tighter. There was a patch that increased the story timing windows. So it was already tighter, and then they made it even more tight. And then bosses, or enemies in general, will both deal more damage and have more HP. So this is harder in every sense of the word. But here we're going to get introduced to Maelle. Maelle is Gustav's adoptive sister, and she is going to be our third party member.
How did you find me?
There was a message at the indigo tree.
Do you know who left it?
Maelle's battle mechanics are pretty unique. She is a fencer, and so her mechanics revolve around her changing stances. She has 4 stances. Well, technically 3 stances, and 1 is stanceless. So stanceless has no benefits. Being an offensive stance, which is what I'm about to do here, will make her deal 50% more damage and take 50% more damage. She has a defensive stance, which will make her take 50% less damage, but she'll also generate more AP on parries. And then she finally has a virtuose stance, which will have her deal plus 200% damage. So that is not double damage, that's actually triple damage. Which is kind of absurd when you think about it. So she's going to be our main damage dealer for the majority of Act 1. In fact, you basically just saw her do pretty well in that fight, and she's also going to solo this fight here against the Merchant. This is going to allow us to buy a Picto called Exposing Attack. Exposing Attack is a Picto that, whenever you do a base attack, it will apply defenseless to the enemy for 1 turn. So after this next optional battle, which is primarily used for experience again, but also we're going to get a special weapon for Maelle, I'll sort of explain how the next 4 or so fights are going to go. But first, we're going to go ahead and do this and mark this guy. And then she'll take him out. And take that guy out. So one of the drawbacks of Maelle is, even though she has this virtuose stance, you have to find a way to get her into virtuose stance. There aren't a ton of ways to do it, but the easiest way, especially early on, is she has a move called Swift Stride, which will put her in virtuose stance if the enemy is burning. So we're going to do a very common cycle where what we're going to do is we're going to burn the enemy with Lune. We're going to do Powerful with Gustav. Then Maelle's going to put herself into Swift Stride, or into Virtuose Stance with Swift Stride. Then Lune is going to base attack to apply Defenseless. Gustav is going to mark the target. And then in Virtuose, Maelle is going to use Percy, which does extra damage to marked enemies. And we all of our characters are also going to have that critical burn Picto, or Lumina on, rather. And that's going to basically deal some pretty absurd damage numbers. Like, we've been doing everything in like the hundreds right now. I think like 700 is probably the most damage we did, outside of that one like super boosted critical hit turn on Avec. You're going to see some much higher numbers here. But I do have to menu real quick before we get there. Nope. There we go. Go Blue, excellent soundtrack, by the way. All right, so we have the cycle. Burn. Powerful. Virtuose stance. Then we set defenseless. We mark. And then, boom. So that was a lot of damage. We do have that 48% crit chance that was on Gustav. We actually have now on Maelle. So anytime she deals damage to a burned enemy, she has a 48% chance to crit. This. Something else with Overcharge that is really only relevant here. Overcharge has a chance to break. If you fill up the stun bar and use Overcharge, you can break the enemy. Basically just stuns them for a turn or two. This is the only fight where it's... Well, there's another fight where it might be relevant, but this is basically the fight where it's relevant, so that's why I forgot to mention it.
Chat is jamming out to this track. The soundtrack's so good for this game.
Oh, absolutely. The soundtrack, that's something I should have mentioned in the opener. The soundtrack of this game is phenomenal.
And so diverse.
Yes. All right. So now we've beaten Go Blue. Story-wise, basically what's going to happen here is we are trying to get to the Monolith, which is where the Paintress is. And the Monolith happens to be across the ocean. And so we need a way to cross the water. And Noko, who was the merchant, Gestural merchant that we talked to, suggests that we go talk to Golgra, who is the chief of the Gestural village. So we have to get there. Unfortunately, there's no easy path there. We have to go through the Ancient Sanctuary, which is basically a maze that the Gestrals maintain as like a barrier to the Gestural village. So we have to go through there, and we're going to be tested by a couple of their enemies that they are using as guardians. But first, this is actually something that you only see in current patch runs. We're going to fight this Patank. So Patanks, there are a number of Patanks in the game. They are gimmick enemies, and they have a lot of drops. So I think this one gives us like 5 polished chroma catalysts, which are ways that you can upgrade weapons, as well as a recoat, which is a way for you to like respec your characters. The gimmicks here, basically, the Patank will continually give himself shields, and he also runs away after 3 turns. So we need to make sure we take care of him before then. Very nice. So typical strategy here, like I said before, virtuose stance, defenseless, mark the target. Marks don't go away if the enemy has shields, so we can clear the shields and then use the big attack. There we go.
Those are shockingly hard fights. I am in awe.
Yes, the Patanks, if you don't have a plan going into them, they are like actually very difficult. And some of them have different gimmicks. Like there's one where you're supposed to like free aim shoot a bunch of stuff. There's one that will spawn a new enemy like every turn. There's just a bunch of them. All right, so robust Sakabatat here. We don't have to parry any of his attacks unless he uses the Slams the Shield one, which is this one. And I'm actually just going to restart the battle. The reason why we have to parry that one is because if you don't parry that one, he will raise his shield. Like if you just dodge, he'll raise his shield, and then next time you deal damage to him, it'll be less damage, and he'll also counterattack you, basically. So that one is important to parry. It's RNG whether or not you see it, so we're going to see it here. Totally fine. I was a bit late on the parry last time.
Yeah, for those who missed it earlier, the parry window is something like 150 milliseconds here on Expert, so it's quite a tight window.
Yeah.
Hey, a jump dodge.
Yes.
Those are a thing.
I guess that's a good thing to mention. We so the character that saw us in the manor, 1 second. Okay. The character that we met in the manor gave us the tutorial on jump counters or jump dodges. Sometimes there will be an attack that has this like symbol that basically means, hey, you have to jump in order to get by this one. And then you sort of get free damage if you hit R2 after jumping. Importantly, it does not generate AP like a normal parry, so it doesn't count as a parry necessarily. It's just a dodge with some extra damage, more or less. But yeah, those are generally, they're nice to see because they are easier to, like the timing for those is a little bit easier. There's another kind of parrying that we'll do later on that also has a larger timing window. But okay, I'm going to go ahead and teach Rain of Fire here to Maelle. Rain of Fire is actually a very important item, or not item, skill in the story glitchless run. But in this run, it's primarily just used for this section. The gestural, or the Sakabatat here is weak to fire, so the more fire we have, the better. In fact, Maelle's weapon is fire-based, as well as Lune's weapon, which is going to be relevant on the next turn. This enemy has a shield, which at a certain amount of HP, he's going to raise it up and take less damage. So we're actually going to destroy his shield next turn. Normally what you're supposed to do is break him and then he'll get staggered, but if you use a weapon that is fire-based, he'll stagger on every shot. And so if you time it just right, you can hit his weak spot. Alright, we're going to use Rain of Fire. Rain of Fire itself does less damage than Parsi, but the burn stacks help quite a bit. So we'll go ahead and break him. That way he just doesn't get another attack off. And there he goes. All right. So now that we're through Ancient Sanctuary, we're going to go ahead and enter the Gestural Village. The Gestural Village, the main thing that we're doing here is we're going to meet Golgra, who's the chief, and they are going to basically suggest that we can use Esquie to get across the water. However, Esquie is super powerful, and so we need to prove our strength in order for them to grant us access to Esquie's nest. In order to prove our worthiness, we are going to enter the Gestural Tournament. It consists of 4 rounds. The first 3 are all going to be the same. We are going to use Maelle. It's a one-on-one tournament, so we have to pick a single character. We're going to use Maelle. Maelle is going to use the move Degagement. Probably has a more French pronunciation, but to say it the way it's spelled is Degagement, which will make the enemy weak to fire for a couple of turns. Then, if you remember, her weapon is fire-based, as well as the Rain of Fire move. So it's going to do a lot of damage to them.
The strain. Lead the way.
Is it for survival on the continent?
And then the final fight is going to be basically the same, except we're not going to use Degagement first. We're just going to Rain of Fire. The enemy just doesn't have enough HP to really warrant the extra turn. So you can see that counter does about like 600 damage. Then we use Degagement. Now he's weak to fire. And so our counter does way more. Alright, this is unfortunate. Okay. Normally he dies there. If I get a single critical hit, he dies to the burn tick. That is a difference on this patch from the down-patched version. And because his first 2 attacks are always the same, I don't know what the third one does, so I just dodge it. Alright, but now we got the level up, so we should be fine, even if we get 0 crits. Getting 0 crits is actually pretty unlikely, so... Although it's gonna happen again, look at this. Nah, there we go.
Game is just giving chat more time to vibe to this absolute banger of a song.
Exactly, exactly. Alright, so let me get through this fight. And then, so every fight in this game is retryable. I can always go to Abandon Battle and just restart the fight. I can always load a save file, whatever. This next fight is like the one exception, and it is one that you can lose and progress the game. However, you need to win in order to do the like route. So I'm going to go ahead and force a save here, basically. So that way, if I do happen to die, it'll be fine. One of my practice runs, I died, and the last save was before the ultimate sack of patat, so... This is Sciel. Sciel is another Expeditioner. So she's going to join our party. But we want to defeat her first. Alright. And so the reason we want to defeat her is because whoever wins this battle, including Sciel, if Sciel wins this battle, this happens as well, gets a special weapon. is a weapon that you can get in other ways, but in terms of the speedrun, it's not really viable. And Maelle's weapon here is the Metalum, which is easily her best weapon,
Thank you.
especially this early in the game, but maybe even in general. The Metalum will always start her in Virtuose stance. So that whole like fire, burn the target, and then turn her into Virtuose stance and then deal a lot of damage, like that no longer matters. We can just start the battle in Virtuose stance and start dealing ridiculous damage ASAP. Here we're going to buy some polished chroma catalysts, which are ways that you can upgrade weapons, as well as critical moment. Critical moment is a fantastic Picto, 50% increased critical hit chance if your health is below 30%. So if you're like me and you come from Pokemon, you can think of like Torrent or anything like that. This is backward. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Critical hit chance is going to be something that is incredibly important for this run. Starting actually in maybe like 10-ish minutes, so stay tuned for that. But before we get there, we're going to go ahead and upgrade our weapons. We're going to upgrade Maelle's weapon one time, and then Lune is going to go all the way up to level 8.
I hope we can trust him.
You might be confused as to why we are upgrading Lune's weapon when we barely use her in battle. But she, like I said, I mentioned at the beginning of the run, she will be our main damage dealer through, especially the middle of the game, like Act 2.
Feeling better?
Yeah.
We can debrief along the way. Let's head east to Esquie's nest.
All right. So we're heading to Esquie's nest. Esquie's nest, very, very funny area. It's a shame that we have to skip cutscenes in a speedrun. But if you have a chance to play this game casually, enjoy this area. It's very funny.
Esquie in general is just a gem of a character.
Yes, absolutely. But we'll do some upgrades here first. And equip some skills. So we're going to teach Lightning Dance to Lune, which I'll explain what that is in a minute. But Sciel is going to primarily get this move called Intervention. Sciel is, in my opinion, one of like the best. She can absolutely deal damage, but she is like one of the best support characters in an RPG, period. She has access to some amazing skills, and Intervention is one of them. Intervention is a skill where she uses it on an ally. That ally immediately gets a turn and 4 AP. Like, it is a ridiculous move. It would be a great move even if it just gave them the extra turn, let alone also replenishing 4 AP.
Esquie is said to feed on light.
Ciel's battle mechanics are kind of complicated. I honestly still don't fully understand them. The main thing to note with her is she has moves that are considered sun skills and moves that are considered moon skills. And you kind of want to use a mixture of both. They'll get different benefits, and you can put yourself into Twilight. And once you're in Twilight, you deal some more damage. So the game is kind of routed with that in mind, but it's not going to be super relevant until some of the later fights.
The more information we get.
All right, so this is Francois. Francois, very funny boss. He has one attack. It is the strongest ice attack ever. At this stage of the game, believe it. If that thing hits you, it destroys any of your characters. And you're going to get a chance to see it, but hopefully it doesn't hit.
I'll do it. A storm is coming.
Let's spill. Strike.
Okay.
Okay,
All this
take it. But
now that Francois is done, I'll talk a little bit about Lune's Lightning Dance. So up until this point in the game, Maelle has kind of been our main damage dealer because she has that really powerful one attack that if you mark the enemy, she can basically hit the damage cap, which right now we have a damage cap of 9,999 damage.
Who else?
And the fact that she's hitting the damage cap already is kind of the reason she's going to start falling off. Instead of wanting to do the most damage, we kind of want to do the most amount of hits at this point. It's no longer just about these one-hit nukes. We really want to start hitting the enemy multiple times because that damage is going to add up, and each individual hit has a damage cap, but the overall move does not. And so that's where Lune's Lightning Dance comes in. Lune's Lightning Dance is a move that deals 6 hits, and more importantly, every one of the hits that is a critical hit will actually hit a second time. So you can do up to 12 hits with a single attack, and let me tell you, that damage starts to go off. The important sort of stipulations with that are that Lune needs to have a guaranteed crit chance in order for us to make perfect use of it. So we're going to start using that critical moment Picto we picked up earlier, which is going to involve us setting up at low HP, which is a really funny way that we do that. But also, in order to get maximum power out of Lightning Dance, we need to generate the correct stains. Lightning Dance wants to consume a blue, a red, and a green stain in order to deal maximum damage. And so we can't just like rip Lightning Dance off the bat. We do have to set ourselves up for it. So we'll have better ways of doing it later on, but for now we're going to primarily use moves like Ice Lance, which gives us a blue and a wild card stain. The white stains are wild card. Immolation gives us a red stain. This move called Wildfire also gives us a red and a wildcard stain. So there are plenty of ways for us to generate the stains, but it's very important we use the right moves in the right order for this section. All right. And so I mentioned before that if you haven't played the game, you're going to be pretty spoiler-free for a while. I would say that this is probably around the time of the game where that changes. So if you do not want to be spoiled, this is your warning. We won't necessarily talk about the story beats, but there will be some things that are very obvious that we can't really skirt around. So
this will be a very obvious spoiler. I do take this one seriously. It is such a moment. I won't speak of it yet, but yes, it is one of the moments of this game.
Yeah. But before we get there, we do have to go through Stonewave Cliffs. This is actually a very brutal section. In my opinion, this is where the game really ramps up in difficulty. It's a challenging game up to this point, but after this point, it is rough. So I'm going to do this paint cage here. Paint cages are basically puzzles where there are 3 locks that you have to shoot, and you get a reward at the end. This is the Delaram. It's a great weapon for Gustav. We're not going to equip it just yet, but it will be relevant later on. And then the other pickup we're doing here, Stonewave Cliffs, is a Picto called First Strike. I mentioned before that there were a couple of Pictos that had a hidden 10% boost that was actually patched out of the game in December. First Strike was one of them. So in addition to First Strike just being a fantastic Picto, like as is, it also gave us a 10% damage boost, which was kind of wild. First Strike, as the name suggests, makes it so that our characters will move first in battle. But we do have to learn it first. So it's going to get equipped here onto Gustav. And then we need to go ahead and set up our Lune with low HP, because we do want Critical Moment to work really well on her. So one way of getting to low HP is obviously just taking damage. another way that is pretty interesting, and as far as I know, Lune is the only character that has something like this. Lune's Wildfire is a move that has a description of it is a risky fire type move. What does risky mean? Risky means if you fail the quick time event, it backfires. And so because she has ended this battle at 0 HP, like some other RPGs, there's no out of battle revives. Instead, what happens is she gets revived with 1 HP. So now I have a perfectly set up Lune at low HP. She's going to be able to take advantage of Critical Moment, as well as some other Pictos I don't have yet. But they will be relevant later on.
Sorry, the casual player in me is still absolutely reeling from the idea that you are intentionally running through this game at 1 HP.
Yes. There are... yes. There are some moments where our whole party will be at 1 HP.
Oh boy!
Yeah. But for right now, it is just Lune. That's why it's one of those downsides. I didn't really mention it before, but in addition to wanting to go damageless just because, like, it's faster to not take damage, right? You also kind of want to go damageless because this game has a 20% experience boost if you finish a fight without taking any damage. Really cool mechanic. I'm definitely a fan of it. But it does mean that even if I take damage and, like, don't die, I still kind of want to reset the fight because... like, I'm losing out on some experience, right? Later on, when everyone's at 1 HP, if I happen to take damage, I'm dead. So I will just reset the battle anyways. And I should mention unintentional damage. There will be some times where we intentionally don't dodge or parry or anything. But, yeah. All right, so we're going to go ahead and... pick up this Color of Lumina. Colors of Lumina are the ways that you can sort of upgrade your characters with more Lumina points. Allows you to equip more stuff. We're not going to use those for a while, but they are relevant later on. And then big menu here before the final boss of Act 1. So we need to do this. You want to get rid of this and this. Give you Dodger. Okay. All right, so final boss of Act 1. This is going to be the Lampmaster. Lampmaster has some really awkward attacks, to say the least. So I will probably be very intent and focused. One thing that is worth mentioning, so even with Critical Moment, I don't have 100% crit chance. I actually have about 75%. So very first thing we're going to do is burn him. So that way Critical Burn takes effect, and now we have 100% crit chance on Lune. That's fine. I can continue without that experience. That's one of those things. If that happened to go into Lune and I took that damage, whoops. If that went into Lune and I took that damage, then I would have to restart the battle.
Your turn to shine. Let's push forward.
Okay. And this is the Power of Lightning Dance. So that is phase 1. Phase 2 here, we do not have to worry about parrying anything, but I do still have to get through the attack. Good. Very nice. Okay. So he shouldn't get another turn. We're going to set defenseless. We're going to use wildfire to both burn as well as set up our stains. Intervention to make it Lune's turn again. And then lightning dance. And that is effectively the end of Act 1. So Lune's lightning dance is going to be, like I said, the main way that we get through Act 2. It is worth mentioning that this is not the strategy at all on story difficulty. In order to make lightning dance work, we really have to be like at low HP, which involves some like slower setups where we're taking extra battles or we're intentionally taking turns where we don't deal damage in order to set up our HP. Story glitchless, if I remember correctly, the route has changed a little bit since I last did it. You basically don't take any optional battles at all. It is 100% the necessary stuff to get through the game is all you do. So it just doesn't end up being worth it. But yeah. All right, so I'm missing that experience from Lampmaster. I don't know exactly where that's going to come into play. There's a couple of places where I'm hoping it doesn't come into play, but if it does, we can work around it. But we've been given Verso. Verso, definitely not a Gustav replacement. Don't think that.
It's definitely not.
Even though he has all the same Pictos equipped that we had before, and like Luminas, and oh wait, I was supposed to equip those in certain spots. Okay. He also uses the same weapons as Gustav. It's fine.
This definitely wasn't a moment where I had to put the game down and go cry for a hot minute.
Yes. Yeah, Verso is going to primarily be like kind of a support character, believe it or not. Even though fills a very similar role to Gustav, where he's, you're kind of like a brute force attacker, right? But he's going to end up playing a little bit more of a support role. That being said, this area, Forgotten Battlefield, has some enemies that resist Lightning Dance. So he's actually going to be the main attacker here for this section, and then it'll go back to Lune, actually. His battle mechanics involve perfection. Basically, he's going to start every battle at D rank, and then as you do things, he will gain ranks, and if you take damage, you go down a rank. 1 second. Good. You might notice that I said he starts at D rank, and then if you look on the right side, he's actually at B rank. That's because the Delaram is a weapon where if you have it equipped, you will start, or you're basically locked to half health or lower, but you start every battle at B rank. So we're able to kickstart his perfection at the cost of being at low health, which we kind of want to be anyways. That's why I intentionally took that damage. That is a tutorial battle for gradient attacks. I have a really funny story about that. But basically, gradient attacks are these special attacks. They are non-dodgeable. You cannot dodge them. Whatever you do, you have to parry them. You parry them with a different button, which confuses some people. But it is also, the timing window for them is a bit larger. So whenever the screen goes black and white like that, I'm hitting R2 instead of R1. And
Is it still around?
there's a little bit more forgiveness when it comes to timing those counters. The funny story. So when I first started playing this game, I got through Act 1, and at that point in the game, I was like, man, I really like this game. I am going to want to speedrun this. I wonder like what the speedrun looks like. So I started a new game, and as part of the speedrun, you turn off tutorials, and I did my like Act 1 speedrun, did it in like, an hour and a half or something silly like that. And then I was like, all right, I should continue the game. And so I went back into my normal save file and I started playing. And because I had turned tutorials off for the speedrun file, it turns it off globally. And I go into that battle and I have no idea what this gradient counter is. And so I just sat there for like 45 minutes trying to figure out what to do against that attack. And I couldn't figure it out. Finally, I Googled it and figured it out, but it was very funny. Okay.
That's okay. Even with tutorials, it took me a minute to figure out what on earth I was supposed to do.
Okay. Okay, so this is going to be the duelist fight. This is, in my opinion, if somebody's like, I don't know if I'm really interested in this game, you know, like maybe show me like a cool boss or something, like this is the boss you show them. This thing is awesome. This boss, our strategy here is going to be all about giving Verso, I almost said Gustav, as many turns as possible and as much AP as possible. That was so early on that dodge. I cannot believe they gave that to me. So Verso's main attack here is called Berserk Slash. Is an attack that hits 3 times and it does more damage the lower health you're at. So the combination of at Death's Door, which gives us a boost at low health, critical moment, and Berserk Slash basically means that we are doing absurd amount of damage every turn. Intervention to make it I almost said Gustav again. Make it Verso's turn. And then one more cycle here, and it should be it. Very nice. Giving Gustav as many turns as possible. 0, exactly. But yeah, that is basically the section of the game where Verso is the main damage dealer. We're going right back to Lune after this. It's just he's kind of necessary here.
Sorry, I blinked and we were already at that fight. What?
Yes. That fight is super cool. Phase 1 is he has like 4 different attacks and he'll use them at random. Phase 2 is actually scripted and he'll use the same 4 attacks in the same order. They're different 4 attacks than phase 1. And notably, the 2 attacks we didn't see are like really long drawn out combos that are very difficult. One of them I think is like 11 hits and ends in a gradient counter. Like it is a really, really cool fight. But obviously we're going fast, so we don't want to see those long combos. All right, so we're going to go ahead and make our way over to Monoko's station. Monoko is going to be the final character that we are recruiting to our party. Very cool character, very funny character. Definitely a comedic relief type character. He is a blue mage. So
Is this the place?
every time you defeat an enemy with him in your party, he'll gain a new skill that basically replicates that enemy's what that enemy does. However, unfortunately for Monoko enjoyers, we will not really be using him at all. It is just a consequence of the fact that he doesn't have a good way to generate his own AP. And a lot of his skills that are really, really good to use just require a ton of extra AP. Like his best skills are like 6, 7, 8, 9 AP skills, and it's just not really doable in a speedrun setting. That being said, if anybody is interested in this game from a speedrun perspective and wants to check out the all achievement speedrun, which is my personal favorite category, it's about 4.5 hours. And it is, you have to use Monoko a lot because there's an achievement for getting all of the different
How
transformations.
far to Monoko Station?
And we can make it work there because like a lot of some of the resources you get in post game help with that AP generation, but it is yeah, it's a bit of a shame that we don't get to use them at all in this run. All right, so one more optional battle here. This one is for 2 reasons. We want to learn some Luminas, and we also want to set up Lune at 0 HP again. So do that, do that. Sciel's actually going to get to attack here, which she hasn't been doing. That's fine. And then, yeah, time for Monoko.
And more fantastic music.
Yes. It comes out of nowhere. It fits the character so well, but it does come out of nowhere.
It was very shocking. Because the whole area is very like icy, and you have like very ice-ish kind of music.
Like to see that.
And then Monoko
Is
hits.
it true before the fracture,
Yep.
Lumiere had trains running throughout the continent?
Always running late.
All right, so a bit of a menu before the fight.
Is that a Grandis? I knew it. They're real too.
Verso wants the Dualiso. Dualiso, fantastic weapon. I'll explain it in a second. Oh, there we go. And then, nope. You want critical moment. You don't want this. You do want first strike. And then I'm actually going to remove these for something later on. All right. So Dualiso is a weapon where after a base attack, Verso gets to play again. And so a very common combo we're going to be doing is we actually have exposing attack on Verso. Energy tint. There we go. We have exposing attack on Verso. So what's going to happen
I'm ready.
is he's going to base attack. That's going to set defenseless for the turn. And then he gets his actual turn, which in this case is going to be using powerful. When he does Ice Lance, that slows him down, but also generates the correct stains that we want. Intervention, and then kaboom.
Let's push forward.
So unfortunately, music cut short, but you can find it on the soundtrack. I'm sure it is one of the most played. All right, so final tutorial battle. This is, we learned about gradient counters. We're now going to have the option of using gradient attacks. For the tutorial, we're going to immediately get a gradient charge, but normally gradient charges happen when you've used 20 AP worth of skills. And the way that they work, you're actually going to see here, is you get to use a move for free. It doesn't cost any AP. It just costs the gradient charge. And more importantly, it is still Lune's turn. So now she can do her normal thing. This is going to be most relevant for Sciel, actually. But Lune is going to get some use out of her gradient attack as well. Really, really good. It is worth mentioning there are 3 levels of gradient attack. In order to get level 2 and 3 for each character, you have to go through some side content. That's just not worth it in the speedrun. So you're only ever going to see these level 1 attacks, but they are good enough for us. All right. So now we've got the full squad, and we're going to make our way to Old Lumiere. Story-wise, we are told that the Paintress's Heart is our next objective, and it is in the center of Old Lumiere. So we're going to go there. We have quite a hefty menu before we get in there. For good, but...
Welcome, my friends.
You want Energizing Start, and then this, and what am I adding at the store? Yes, okay. Nope, not that. Okay. And then we want to do agility here. This here. This here. We're going to respec Lune. Give her some might. A ton of agility. And then a little bit of luck. Luck is going to increase our critical hit chance. And then similarly for Sciel. And then Lune is going to learn her next best skill, which is called Elemental Trick, which I'll explain the first time we use it. And then Verso is going to learn a couple more moves. Specifically, Leadership is really good. Leadership is a move that basically counts as like a party-wide energy tint. So it replenishes AP, or gives everyone on the team AP. So it's another really good support move. Elemental Trick, I guess I can explain now while we're going into this section, because there's not a battle for a little bit. Elemental Trick is a skill of Lune's. It's a relatively cheap skill. I want to say it's like 3 AP. And it hits 4 times, 1 for every element. And whichever hits will give a critical hit will generate that stain. So because we have Lune set up at like a maximum crit chance, she's basically going to be able to generate all 4 color stains whenever she wants. And Lightning Dance wants to consume a red, a green, and a blue stain. And so you can kind of see that synergy there.
When the rest of the city is here. One of the great mysteries. I wish we had more time. So much to study here.
And then yeah, so we're heading through Old Lumiere. Canonically, this area was also part of Lumiere, the city that we started at the beginning of the game. But during the event called the Fracture, it was the city of Lumiere was cast away from this area, and so this area has become Neveron infested, and nobody here survived. So
our forests are filled with gestrels awaiting rebirth.
Yeah, this
also, I guess
in the story.
Yes, yeah.
Go play the game.
Yeah. The other thing I didn't mention, so this is your typical RPG trope of, oh no, the party got split up. You have to use the characters that you haven't been leveling. It's not too bad, but it is kind of funny that RPGs just love to do this. So right here, we only have Maelle and Verso in our party. Luckily, you know, the way that the leveling works, like Maelle's not exactly weak at this point, even though we haven't been using her, so... we're going to go ahead and Rain of Fire. And then... Oh, that did not kill. That's fine.
I'll manage.
Not a big deal. And now, this is one of the scariest sections of the game. And the reason for that is because we are now playing as solo Maelle. She is the only character we have here. Verso disappears basically after that battle. And so we haven't really run into it yet because I haven't run into any optional encounters like by accident. But basically, the game does have a way to flee from optional battles. And the way that you do that, like mechanically, is every character in your party has to attempt to flee, and then you will flee. So if you have some characters that are slower than others, It's possible that like 2 characters attempt to flee, and then the enemy gets a turn, and then their third one gets to flee. However, if you only have 1 person in your party, you have to attempt to flee twice. And so while we do have first strike equipped on everybody, meaning that we are guaranteed to go first, because Maelle is by herself, she doesn't have, like, she would attempt to flee, and then the enemies would go twice each, and then she would attempt to flee again. So it is always better to just reload your save if that happens. Alright. So you always get free healed before this battle, so we're going to set up low HP ourselves. Oh, that's not good. I'm actually going to restart the battle. So this is Renoir. Renoir is kind of like the main bad guy other than the Paintress. He is the one who ambushed the expedition at the start of the game. And so he is the one currently guarding the Paintress's heart, which is in the manor that's right here. This battle, you are forced to use a specific party, which is why we don't have Sciel, we have Maelle instead. And you always get auto-healed going into it, which is why we have to set up Lune's health. Renoir has some really awkward attacks, as you can see. Okay. Alright, better attack. That's a gradient counter, so I had to hit R2 instead of R1. You want to energy tint here, and then light ice lance. That slows him down, so he only gets 1 turn. I'm gonna dodge this instead of parry because I'm apparently bad. Okay. You can do this. Go ahead and leadership. And then lightning dance to finish him off. All right. Not too shabby. So in these cutscenes that are being skipped, we basically learn, or we don't learn, we see the manor get swept away, so we don't have access to the Paintress's heart anymore. So we have to find a different way to get into the monolith. Basically, the monolith has a barrier that is surrounding it that we have to somehow get through. And so the first idea was to tackle the Paintress's heart. The second idea is the curator, the guy who upgrades our weapons for us, basically tells us that we can get enough chroma, which is kind of like the life force in this universe. We can get enough chroma to create a weapon that can penetrate the barrier by defeating the Axons. There are 3 Axons. There are 4 Axons. One has already been defeated by previous expeditions. One of them is out of reach, so we cannot access them. And so there are 2 Axons we have access to, and that is this section of the game. You could go here first, or you can go to the island of Seren first. We're going to Visage first because it is it's low. It's kind of like the way the game expects you to go, but they even tease it. They're like, oh, the one on Visage will be easier than the one in Seren, and then one of your characters is like, but we like the challenge. It's kind of a fun little cutscene. But the gimmick here, both Axons have a set of optional bosses that you can fight to make the main fight easier. We are not going to do them. This one, the way that it works is there are 3 veils. We're going to be visiting 2 of them to pick up items, but not fighting the bosses. Each of the veils has a boss that you can fight, and if you don't fight them, when you fight the main Mask Keeper, he will get different bonuses. One of the bonuses is he will be able to play twice in a row. That should be the only one that we see during the run, or during the speed run. one of the masks will heal him, and the other one, I don't recall what the other one does, because it's just not relevant for the speedrun. But if you defeat the optional bosses, then you don't have to worry about that. And the fight, I mean, the boss is still difficult, but like, it is much simpler.
Can't help but feel for them.
I want to say one of them gives him shields. Maybe that's what it is.
I wouldn't know. I fought all the side bosses, so.
Yeah. Casually, you should. Just like, the more content you can do, the better. And this is one of the only places that actually, if you don't fight these bosses, you cannot fight them after you defeat the main guy here. That is not true of the second area. The second area, if you fight Seren without fighting the Tissure, it's fine. You can still go back and fight the Tissure. All right, so we just picked up Glass Cannon. Glass Cannon is a Picto that has us deal more damage, but we also take more damage. Ideally, we don't take any damage, so should be fine. Here we're going to be getting Confident Fighter, which is a Picto that gives us more... what is it exactly? It gives us more damage, but we can't be healed. Again, we shouldn't be taking damage, so we shouldn't need to heal ourselves. And while we're over here, we're actually going to do another HP setup, but this time it's not going to only be Lune. We're actually going to set up our HP on both Lune and Verso. And the way that we do it is kind of funny.
They seem so joyful.
So one of the Pictos we picked up earlier is called Inverted Affinity. We basically will start a battle inverted, and while inverted, we will deal more damage. Inverted is a status condition that basically makes it so you take damage when you are healed instead of healing. So, you bang, bang. Nope. You want Glass Cannon. You want combo attack. I need to scroll down because I didn't do that yet. Okay. Confident Fighter here. Get rid of Critical Burn. Add Augmented First Strike and Energizing Start. Oh, and then you want at Death's Door and equip the Delaram. Okay. So I mentioned earlier we don't use Monoko, but Monoko's in our party. I wonder why he's there. I mentioned before that in order to flee from battle, if you're the only person, you have to attempt to flee twice. So we've made Monoko incredibly fast, so that way we can kill off both Verso and Lune, and then be able to flee with Monoko. Verso is inverted, so him using a healing skill just hurts him instead of heals him. And it just so happens that we hurt ourselves enough to get ourselves down to that 1 HP threshold. By a couple of things, and then it's on to the Visage fight. So this is part of the game where I would say battles against bosses specifically start to get incredibly cinematic and epic. If you have a chance to do these fights outside of a speedrun setting where you're okay doing more turns, or like maybe your strategies just aren't as super optimized as these are, you can really appreciate a lot of the attacks. They are like very big, grand attacks. I can think of one attack on Seren that it's a shame we never see because it is such a cool attack. But yeah, the Mask Keeper here is probably one of the first ones where it's very big and grand in scale.
What does that mean? He who guards truth with lies.
Exactly.
But before we get there, we do have to do a little bit of a menu. We don't want Monoko in our party for long, as well as we want to give Glass Cannon to Verso. So, get rid of him, add you, re-equip the Dual ESO, and then do Glass Cannon. Okay. we get ourselves up to C rank, so that way Berserk Slash here does more damage. Elemental Trick, every one of these is going to crit, which means we're going to get all of the stain colors. Intervention. And then we pop a Lightning Dance. That first attack there is always the same. There are different masks that will happen if you let the fight go on, but we'll be transitioning phases here. Something kind of interesting. We're actually going to kill the boss here on the gradient attack, which means it's still our turn, technically. So we're going to use that as an opportunity to energy tint Sciel, so she's prepared for phase 2. And then here's the Mask Keeper, the real Axon. And he's going to get 2 turns here.
Get ready.
That's 1.
Luna, careful.
Good. All right. So we attack, that sets defenseless.
I think I'll improvise.
Powerful. Lightning Dance. This is going to do a bit over half. Defensive Aura basically means every time he hits us, he'll gain a shield, but he shouldn't get any more turns. Intervention, so it's Lune's turn now. Go ahead and Gradient Attack. Does a little bit of damage, but more importantly, it gives us another Wildcard Stain. So that way we can do one more Lightning Dance. And finish him off. Alright. So, in addition to doing that area first, because it's like kind of the expected lower level area, we also do it because we can get some extra resources that we can now use to upgrade our weapons. So we want both Sciel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5. So we upgrade both of their weapons. Up until now, Sciel has been basically just a support character. Occasionally we'll use hero attack, but it's never like big damage or anything. That's going to change here. So Sciel has a gradient attack that actually hits 10 times. And importantly for this area is a gradient attack that is a dark type attack. And both Axons actually are weak to dark. So we're going to use a combination of Lightning Dance and Sciel's gradient attack, as well as another move called Sealed Fate. That's a 7-hit attack. In order to just deal a ton of damage. We'll get the 12 hits from Lightning Dance, 10 hits from Shadowbringer, I think it's called. It's Gradient Attack. And 7 hits from Sealed Fate. So it is like 29 hits of damage. It's kind of absurd. And we're not quite at damage cap yet, but by the end of Act 2, we will be basically hitting damage cap on all of our moves. So that is a lot of damage. You love this area? The music and the setting is great? Yeah, I agree. This area is really cool. It's the first of like 3 areas in the speed run that I don't want to say are boring, but like it is a lot of running to get to the end. These are very massive areas with a ton of stuff to do, but like we just don't need to do them in the speed run. But this area is very cool. The whole vibe of it is great. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and... Oh, nope, not that. There we go. Do some more of that, and then we will teach some skills to Sciel. Here's that sealed fate attack I was talking about. We're also going to give her Card Weaver. Card Weaver is kind of like a mini. I put that in the wrong slot. I need to. Muscle memory is going to ruin me if I do that. Okay. Card Weaver is kind of like a mini gradient attack. You can use it as a skill, and then you get to play immediately.
Familiar. This is kind of dancing.
So it just gives us like a little bit of extra damage whenever we need it. So as is tradition, here's an optional battle. Let's kill off Lune. We're actually going to kill off everybody. Something that's really cool about this game, I am definitely a fan of. Not every RPG does this. And that is, if you happen to wipe in battle, they give you the opportunity of using your like second expedition, and you kind of get this like last stand. Very, very cool mechanic, but we can abuse that here by killing off our entire party and then fleeing with the backup party. So now the main party is all at 1 HP, and as long as we have first strike on the backup party, they will always get to go first, and they will always get to flee. All right, what else is relevant in this area? So in this area, there is a boss, a mini boss that we're actually going to fight on the way to the main boss. It's called Glissando. Funny enough, it is possible to skip Glissando without like going out of bounds. By just continually shooting the enemy and just walking through him. You're going to see here, actually, that something you can do... I did this in Old Lumiere once or twice. But basically, if an enemy is in your way or like aggroed on you and you don't think you can pass it without getting hit, what you can do is use your free aim shot. What? It didn't show up. I look like a fool. All right, it's fine. I can flee. But basically, you can use your free aim shot to stun the enemy. Like that. And then... then you can just get right past them. But... I guess another thing to mention while we have a bit of downtime. So I'm running on Glitchless. There are glitched categories. There are two main categories. There is unrestricted and restricted. Unrestricted allows everything. So any glitch that's in the game, you can use. And I want to say that time, that's primarily run on story difficulty, and the time for that is like around 50 minutes with loads removed. It's actually a really fast category. The restricted category allows everything unrestricted does, except there is a way that you can overflow your stats that is not allowed. And that category is about an hour. It's a bit under an hour, 10 minutes. For glitches, there are a lot of out of bounds, as well as some like save warping and save corruption stuff. But none of that's allowed here in Glitchless. Okay, so you want At Death's Door, and then you're going to swap that for Confident Fighter, and then we want Immaculate there. Do all that. Okay. Yeah, Glitchless, the closest thing we have to glitches are the cutscene menuing that I did primarily early game, as well as... It's not... I hesitate to even call it glitch-like. There's some movement you can do to like skip small areas, but you stay in bounds the whole time. But yeah, that's really about it. You're more or less playing the game as intended, which is my personal cup of tea. But I know some people like the very heavy glitch stuff, so figured I'd mention them. What is the current level of the party? Great question. Let's see if the triangle menu shows me. I want to say I'm like 26. It does not show me. Okay, it'll show me at the end of this battle. We finished the game at level 33, which is very fitting. So here we're going to use Card Weaver. It's going to make it Sciel's turn again, and then we can intervention. So we can get a lightning dance off. And now Glissando's going to get to attack once. Let's see what he does. Okay. That is the hardest attack of Glissando's, and we managed to get it first try, which is awesome. So we set defenseless and we leadership, gives everyone AP. Wildfire to generate stains. Gradient attack. So you can see how much damage that one does. And then we combo that with one more lightning dance. And there we have it. I did not see what level we were. I saw 25, I think. 26, maybe. On the replay. Yeah, I want to say casually... Casually at this point, you're probably in the 30s. Maybe like 35 or so. Maybe even higher, actually. The game gives you like these... danger warnings when you're going to an area that's considered over level for you, and we basically, after like the first 3 areas, everything is a danger.
Sounds like classic speedrunning.
Yeah. All right. So this is the Seren fight. The main thing we're doing here, so there was the Tissure optional boss. If you don't defeat him, once Seren gets knocked below half health, she is going to basically every so often, the Tissure comes and like adds armor to her dress, which is effectively saying that she gets shields every now and then. We will not be seeing that. Also importantly, this is basically meant to mimic a ballet. So there's like a first act, there's a grand finale, there's stuff like that. Those attacks are really cool and cinematic, and you should definitely check them out if you haven't seen them before. Specifically, the grand finale attack is phenomenal. It is just a perfect onslaught, and it ends with a building getting thrown at you. But the first act begins when she gets knocked below 80% health. So our objective is to actually not do enough damage to trigger that attack. It's a very long, drawn-out attack. And then finish her off before anything else happens. So this should be Dances with Glissandos. Okay. Very nice. Oh, I didn't do enough damage. Which is totally fine, I think. She should go frantic here. Okay. Yeah, this is fine. Usually she goes frantic on the counter, so it's very strange that she went frantic later. Okay, leadership. You know something? It's potential we underdamage here, and you get to see the grand finale. I think I should be fine, but there's always a chance. No, you're definitely not going to see it. Sorry.
All of them a reason to go play casually.
Exactly. All right, so that is both Axons down. With that, we gain access to the Monolith. We also get a new weapon for Maelle, which we're not using Maelle right now, so is going to just sit in our inventory. but it's a weapon called the Barrier Breaker. It's a pretty decent weapon. The Metalum is still better. The main draw of using the Barrier Breaker in like a speedrun setting is the fact that it comes in at level 15 compared to like the Metalum right now is level 6. So it's a very big level boost, but the bonuses it gives are not as good as the Metalum is.
Can't remember a thing.
All right, so it's time for the Monolith. The Monolith, 2 bosses, very big bosses right at the end.
Finally reached the painters.
There's plenty of mini bosses throughout, but we are skipping everything. That is not mandatory. And both of these bosses are just like phenomenally designed. I can't say enough good things about this game. The first of the bosses is going to be our second encounter with Renoir. Renoir is the guy who we fought in Old Lumiere, and he is also the one who ambushes the expedition at the very start of the game. His second boss battle, a lot of people really like the music for. I agree. But importantly for the speedrun, it is a single phase boss with 2 phases. And that may sound confusing, and it kind of is. But basically, the idea is that he is a normal enemy, normal boss, up until you do half health to him. Once you've done half health to him, in between turns, regardless if it's your turn or not, he is going to summon a lion demon and then get replenished back up to full health. And then from that point on, every one of his attacks will be followed up with one of the lion's attacks. So that's what I mean by it's technically it's a 1-phase fight, but there's kind of 2 phases to it. Our goal is to deal just enough damage that we don't trigger the lion phase, and then bring them from over half health all the way to empty in a single turn. We managed to do that on the Avec fight early on. This one is far harder and tighter and way more punishing to miss. So that fight is very big on managing the amount of damage we're doing. We're going to be using some skills that you never see ever. Specifically, Lune has one called Stormcaller, which is a move that basically does residual damage over time. Every time you attack him, every time he's dealt damage, he'll take a little bit more. And every time he gets an attack off, he'll take a little bit of damage afterwards. Kind of like poison ticks in Pokemon.
The paintress. She's up there.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
But before we get there, we kind of have this final dungeon-esque revisit of all these areas we've been before. So this is very reminiscent of Spring Meadows, aptly named the Tainted Meadows. And so there's actually an Avec boss we could go fight if we wanted to. We do not. But we could. We're just going to go through all those different areas. I do want to go ahead and menu real quick.
What was that?
So let's go ahead and do that. So you want the Tisserand, and then you want this. Combo attack, that's what it was. Yeah.
Fire. Again.
Okay, importantly, okay. I forgot to change my party when I was doing a practice run this morning, so or yesterday. Oh, I guess another question I get every now and then is do any of the characters run faster than others? Because like you can switch between your party members by clicking in the left stick. They all run at the exact same speed, so it is purely up to preference. I personally will run with Maelle sometimes because she is the smallest character. She takes up the least amount of the screen. The hitbox, I believe, is the same as every other character. It's just she physically takes up less space. You can see the difference when you start running with like Monoko, right? He takes up so much extra space, it's hard to see around him. So it really is just preference, but Maelle is the smallest, so she gets, especially these long sections with lots of enemies to dodge, she gets the call. Right. Important information, if you are playing this game casually, fight that guy I just passed with Monoko in your party. Gives you easily his best skill. It costs 9 AP, but it does absurd amount of damage if you can set it up correctly. All right. Make our way up the stairs. We're heading to the Stonewave Cliffs section. In this section, we're going to be picking up weakness gain. I didn't really mention like every Picto that we've equipped or like picked up or anything like that. A lot of times, if a Picto itself doesn't sound too appealing, like weakness gain, I think gives you an extra AP if you hit somebody with their weakness, which is like kind of nice, but kind of whatever. The main reason we use it is for the passive stats. So if I remember correctly, I don't know the exact number, but weakness gain gives you like over 100 speed, which is just really nice. Yeah, 162 speed and 17% critical hit chance just for having it equipped. So we've had a number of Pictos where the only reason we've equipped it is so that way we get those extra stats. All right, so difficult movement section here. There are these Clair Obscur enemies in all of the areas, and they are like kind of blocking your path, but in ways that you can get around them. Typically, this one is the hardest to dodge, but managed to get by that. All right, and then 2 more areas, but we do have to go to a flag first, which we're going to do in the Lumiere section coming up. And then it will be time for Renoir 2. Like I said, scariest fight in the run. Easily the most technically challenging, and requires the absolute most focus.
Good luck.
We're inside.
Thank you, thank you.
These are memories.
Essentially, to basically just reiterate, we are going to try to deal enough damage at the start of the battle to where we can finish him off from over half health in a single character's turn. If we under damage, then he will end up healing and we'll have to restart the battle. If we over damage, he'll end up healing and we'll have to restart the battle. So it is very particular. It's also not a scripted fight. Some fights I've mentioned so far have been scripted where like they'll always use the same attacks in the same order. This is not one of those fights. So like our counter damage will be variable from run to run. And so it really is a matter of just doing our best to manage the amount of damage we're doing. But we're going to go ahead and teach all set to Sciel. This is basically an Omni boost for the entire party, which is very powerful. And Stormcaller, which is that move I mentioned where the enemy will start taking residual damage over time. And that extra damage is necessary. But as is tradition, optional battle, we know what that means. Goodbye, everybody in the party. Nope. Skip you. Slow this enemy down because it doesn't have as good attacks.
Eyes up,
The game can just say no here. Kind of. Something I didn't mention, but is actually like really important for the game from a speedrun perspective, is unlike a lot of other RPGs, again, I primarily come from Pokemon, but I know other RPGs have this as well. There's no variable damage in this game. If you have the same stats, you will always do same stats and same equipment and everything. You will always do the same damage. The only variability is whether or not you critical hit. So that is a nice thing. The issue is, like, with this battle in particular, the issue is Sciel and Lun are guaranteed to crit, but Verso is not. And also, who Renoir targets for counters, you may get more damage if it's an AoE counter versus a solo target versus Verso getting countered versus Lun getting countered. So it's a lot of variability there. I basically have the HP thresholds. I have a screenshot of HP thresholds I need to hit. And luckily we have free aim shots that we can use to manage our damage a little bit. But the general idea is Renoir is going to get 2 attacks. We are going to counter both of them unless the first one is an AoE counter. If the first one's an AoE counter, we have enough damage that we don't need to counter the second one. We still can, and there are gradient attacks that we have to counter, so we'll see how it goes. But here we go. There's that. Here's that Stormcaller attack. It does not deal damage on its own. It is only residual damage that you will see here. So this is normally a one-hit attack, but it hits twice. Okay, we have to counter this because it's a gradient. And because we got a solo target, we need to counter the next one as well. Ice Lance to slow him down so he only gets 1 turn instead of 2. Good. Alright, I'm going to do a couple of attacks here. Like 3, that should be... Yeah, that should be plenty. Alright. Sciel. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Being very particular there. To not shoot too many times. But there it is. Alright, that is a great one to get through.
That was impressive.
Yeah. That is, like I said, it's very particular, is very hard to do enough damage, but not too much damage. And now we go to Paintress, which is, I would say, not as technical, but has worse attacks that you have to dodge and counter, and also is way longer.
We need to be as
this fight is incredibly cool if you have a chance to play the game. You're going to see a lot of the cool stuff, but there's at least one attack that you're not going to see here that is very, very cinematic, is the best way to put it. Okay. So very long battle, another 2-phase fight. Well, it's kind of 3, but you'll see. We're going to start with a skip.
I'll manage.
A storm is coming.
The Paintress is 100% scripted. She will always use the same attacks in the same order. And that is actually quite important here. First attack here is going to be Meteors. We are going to dodge them all. We don't want the AP generation, and it would be random anyways. So,
How cruel of your father to use you like this.
Not impressed.
Careful now. Try. Look out.
good.
Wait up, Verso.
One shot. You can't use leadership if you are not at C rank or higher. So we need the extra shot there to get to C rank. Lune is going to be alternating between Elemental Trick and Lightning Dance. And then here's that Omni Boost attack. This is always a gradient attack. We have to counter this, and we have to counter the next one as well. Good. All right. We are intentionally not going to send her to phase 2 yet. We want to send her to phase 2 on a counter. And the reason for that is by doing it this way, we're going to see 2 attacks in phase 2. Her third attack is incredibly long. It's a very epic attack, but it is a very long animation. So by giving her a turn here instead, we are able to skip that.
Not impressed.
You can't betray Verso like this.
Good. So that's phase 1 down. God, this phase is so good.
However he likes. But I get
And the cutscene before this that we just skipped, also amazing.
No, the entire world changed. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Go play the game. You'll get to see how we ended up in this situation.
I'll manage.
Let's push forward.
All right, she's going to get 2 turns here. We need to counter the first one and dodge the second.
Deck. So be it.
Not impressed.
Renoir thinks I would not defend myself if he used your face. How little he understands me.
Not impressed.
Did I dream the fire? Is Verso still alive?
Nice. All right. Very good.
Lightning, dance. Well, well.
And that should do it. Whew. All right. So now, kind of a phase 3, not exactly phase 3.
It's locked on you.
Unfortunately, as sad as it is, we do have to finish her off.
Your fate is sealed.
That is the Paintress down. And we get rewarded with 6 cutscenes to skip.
That makes sense with the story that we're skipping.
Yes. Yeah. That is, I don't know exactly how, it's like a 45 minutes of just cutscenes there. It's kind of like a lore dump section, but like in my opinion, it's gripping enough that it doesn't feel like your typical lore dump section, so. So much stuff happens. It's true. But one of the most important things that comes out of, in terms of gameplay, that comes out of defeating the Paintress, is we are now in Act 3, and within Act 3, you get access to 2 things that are really important. The first is a Pictos called Painted Power. Painted Power is a Pictos that removes the damage cap entirely. It does not increase the damage cap, it just removes it, which is really fun and interesting and funny, because you can do a lot of really cool stuff with builds. You can do absurd amounts of damage. Like there are builds to do like literally billions of damage in single hits. It's absolutely wild. We're not going to be going that wild with it. We are going to make use of it on the final boss, but it is not that important. The other thing that is arguably just as important as removing the damage cap is Maelle gets access to her painter powers. Not to be confused with Painted Power. Basically, she'll have skills that are unlocked. She has unlocked her powers as a paintress, basically. And one of those skills in particular is called Stendhal. And anyone who's played this game up to this point knows how powerful Stendhal is. Stendhal has actually been nerfed. Pretty much everyone who runs this game actually runs on a patch from May of last year. Because Stendhal does a ton of damage. It was nerfed by 40%, but it still does a lot of damage. It just effectively for our purposes, it just means we have to have a little bit more equipped in terms of Pictos and whatnot. But you can still get those really high damage numbers even with the nerf.
What's the other?
Maybe you're fighting Eileen.
But yeah, needless to say, Lune is not going to be our main damage dealer anymore. It's going to be somebody else.
Lune.
I was right.
And what would you?
I wouldn't have.
So you.
Oh, come on.
That's your.
Knowing what you know now, I don't apologize.
Something kind of interesting about that little section there. So the glitched run, early on, it was discovered that you could actually skip characters outright. So Sciel is the easiest one to skip. But you can, I believe you can skip Monoko. I think you can skip... You might be able to skip Lune. I don't know for sure. But I know you can definitely skip Monoko and you can skip Sciel. However, that little camp cutscene, you cannot progress past it without talking to everybody, including if you don't have the character unlocked yet. And so for a while it was like, oh, we could skip Sciel and maybe it's useful for like the Act 1 speedrun, but we can't use it for full game because you have to talk to everybody at the camp. It was found, there was a way to escape the camp that was found by basically loading a save from earlier in the game, but with like your current progression. I don't know exactly how it works, but there's a way you can basically transfer data between save files. And so you load your position from one save with your progression from another, and you're able to escape the camp that way. Glad it was nerfed. Yeah, it's still very powerful, to say the least. But it is something we have to account for. We are doing significantly less damage. Basically, every skill has like a percentage that it actually does of your base attack. I don't know what most skills are. I know Stendhal's just off the top of my head. But for the most part, attacks are like 3 or 4 times your base attack. Sometimes they're less because they hit more than once. whatever. Stendhal, before the nerf, dealt 2,500% damage. And now it deals 1,500% damage. So it's doing 15 times your base attack, basically, in a single hit. It is 8 AP, which is the main drawback of it. In addition to, I believe it sets Maelle to be defenseless and stanceless. So, like, there's heavy drawbacks to using it, but it is... if you set yourself up, there shouldn't be more turns after you use Stendhal, so... What kind of drawbacks are they, really? So, Chromatic Boss there that we were able to skip. He's kind of in your way, but you can just go around him. Notably, if I did run into him, I'd have to reload my save. You cannot run away from that boss. It's not considered a normal enemy. It's considered like an actual boss. All right.
What are they doing here?
So we're coming up on the last big menu of the run. Because we've kind of been ignoring Maelle this whole time, we need to actually equip a bunch of stuff on her and upgrade her as well. So first thing we're going to do is actually go to a shop. In the shop, we're going to buy a bunch of weapon upgrades, or items that are used for weapon upgrades, I should say. And then we also need a recoat. If I don't have one already, recoats are random drops. So if I don't have one, I need to buy one. One of my practice runs, I think I had like 9. But it is possible to get here with 0. I do have some. Okay. All right, and then we're going to do a big flag menu. In this menu, we're going to give Maelle some might and luck, because we want to guarantee the crit. So go to 59, and then do this. And then Sciel, we're actually going to respec completely into agility. We want her to be as fast as possible. Here is Stendhal. We're going to equip that. We're going to upgrade the Metalum. Again, reminder, this weapon starts Maelle in the Virtuose stance, so we don't have to worry about putting her there. She'll just always be there. And then give her some Colors of Lumina. That's going to allow us to equip more stuff on her in this menu. So get rid of these two. Get rid of those. And then we're going to put Painted Power on Maelle. That's going to allow her to do over the damage cap, and then give her Immaculate and Confident Fighter. And then at Death's Door, Critical Moment, and whoops, Glass Cannon.
I can't sustain the expedition as much longer.
All right, this is one of the funniest things to me, is they very clearly put this enemy. It's going to spawn right at the end of this walkway. They put this enemy here, who's a boss. Like, it has a boss health bar and everything. But it turns out you can just run away from it, which doesn't make any sense to me. You should have to defeat it. But we're going to take advantage of that. We're going to put Maelle at low health. And then send in our reserve team, who's going to be able to run away. All right, and then we're going into effectively the final boss of the game, which is, without going into the story too much, this is the Curator. This is the true Renoir.
Pause over there. And the chroma. We need to bring back Lumiere.
Even I can sense him.
This is another 2-phase boss battle.
We'd better make sure.
And phase 2 will always start with an Omni boost. Basically, he's going to get faster, he's going to get more powerful, and put up Shell, which is like the defensive up. And we want to try to avoid that, so I'm going to try to explain this as I go. So we're going to start off with a leadership. We've set Renoir to be defenseless, and we leadership. That gives everyone enough AP to do what they need. We do all set. That's our own Omni boost. I'm going to do Stendhal, but purposely not do perfect. That's going to under damage just a little bit. So now I intervention to back to Maelle, and I'm going to use Maelle's gradient attack called Virtuose Strike, which is going to put her back into Virtuose stance. But more importantly, it is still Maelle's turn. The turn doesn't transition to Renoir's turn. It's going to be our turn when we go to the next phase. So not only are we back in Virtuose stance, we have enough AP because of all the stuff we did, but he doesn't get his Omni boost. And because we were able to underdamage by not doing enough to the QuickTime events, we're able to take him out before the Omni boost happens. So he's going to go through this Omni boost animation still, but he is effectively done. The fight is over at this point. So very, very cool strategy there. We would not do enough damage if he had Shell up. Shell makes him take 25% less damage, I believe it is. So we would need to be even higher level than we actually are. Yeah, pre-patch this would have been about 1.3 million. Yeah. That is it for Renoir. We have one more battle. It's about a minute away from now. A little bit less. But basically, there is a choice you can make at the very end of the game to, again, without going into the story too much, do you want to side with Maelle or do you want to side with Verso? Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what side you're on, we are going to side with Maelle purely because she has Painted Power on right now and Verso doesn't. So time is going to be at the fade out at the end of this fight. And time.
GG.
GG. That is my PB on this patch. Even with some of those mistakes. But it was, I think, overall a pretty good run. I hope it was a decent showcase for everybody. If you are interested in this game, from a casual standpoint, please play it. You know what? I'll pause so that way we don't get spoiled by the ending. If you haven't played the game, I highly recommend you do. I believe it's on sale right now. Not sponsored or anything, but like it's really that good of a game that I want to plug it. If you are interested in the speedrun at all, I highly recommend joining the Discord. The speedrun Discord for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. There's a ton of resources. There's a ton of people there that are super knowledgeable about the games. I will say that I'm doing this run on console today. And there are really good notes for expert Glitchless, specifically on the current patch. The resources may not be as robust for current patch in the other categories, but if you have the game on PC and you're comfortable with down patching, it's totally an option as well. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. This game is really special, and I hope more people can play it because it truly is amazing.
It's such a beautiful experience. I want to thank you, especially Eddaket, for coming. This showcase was originally scheduled for December, and due to a number of factors colliding at the same time, it had to get rescheduled. And so the fact that you were willing to come back and do it for us, several months later, is really appreciated. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's funny is if we had done it back in December, it actually would have been on the old patch because the patch hadn't come out yet. But doing it on the new patch is totally fine. It's a little bit slower, but it's ultimately I get to show off some new stuff that like not a lot of people are doing because everyone down patches. So
yeah, for sure. And if folks want to see more of the new content, the finale run of RPG Limit Break coming up next month is going to be Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and that's going to be the Super Boss % category, which is all of the new stuff. I'm super excited. Beta and Zero are running that as a race. I get the pleasure of hosting it. It's going to be phenomenal. You're going to want to tune in. But if folks want to find more of you, Eddaket, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just Eddaket here on Twitch. I primarily do Pokemon speedruns actually, but this game kind of stole me away last year. My current focus right now is actually Pocopia, believe it or not. And then you can find me on YouTube as well, Eddaket, Blue Sky. Basically anywhere that there's socials, it's probably going to be Eddaket there. So, but yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming and doing this run. We have a couple more announcements before we head off for a raid, so don't disappear. We are going to go send the love to someone else. First of all, we had a ton of support come in from subs. All your subs do help RPG run and do the stuff that we're doing. And so thank you to Dreadnought, Scissor, Roto Sensei, Feminine Eminem, an anonymous gifter, the Prism Aura, Tim is on the internet, Atheniel, and Wizard Chrono for your subs. Thank you so much for supporting RPG Limit Break and the work that we're doing here. Now, as was mentioned, our big annual charity event is coming up in less than a month. That is going to be May 17th to 23rd, live in Denver. Tickets are still available. The price has gone up a little bit, but they are still available. You can still register to come join us live in Denver, Colorado. We will also be live here on Twitch and on YouTube for the entire week. So if you're tuning in remote, you can also come watch an incredible week of RPG and RPG adjacent speedruns. It's going to be, the schedule is truly absolutely stacked. You can find out more by typing exclamation mark RPGLB, or just going to our website, which is rpglimitbreak.com. You can find all that information, how to register. As a reminder, if you are registered to attend or if you are a volunteer, we do have merch this event, thanks to Tantrum Merch, and you can go get that. But hurry, because a deadline is approaching on April 30th. So make sure you do get that in and done. But yeah, this has been a wonderful episode of Hidden Encounters. I've been Selcouthmind. It's always a pleasure having these indie and obscure games, although, you know, there's debate around this one. I still love it. It's a beautiful game. We will send the love off to someone else, so stick around, and we'll see you next time for more RPG content.